Hello everybody, I am Ranjeet Kaur, Assistant Professor Political Science from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. Today we are going to start with the Western political thought. When we talk about Western political thought, we usually talk about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. So today we are going to start with Plato's theory of justice. Let us have a look at the biography of Plato. Plato was born in 427 BC and he died in 347 BC. He was a well-known Greek philosopher who was born in an aristocratic family in Greece. He had the royal blood in his veins. His true name was Aristocles. He was the follower of Socrates. The name and fame of Socrates' school of thought attracted him so much that at the age of 20, he joined Socrates' Academy. After meeting Socrates, that was the turning point of his life. He died at the age of 81. The name Plato was also given to him by Socrates. After the defeat of Athens by Sparta, Sparta formed a government of oligarchy, to whom Plato termed as 30 tyrants, the rule of 30 tyrants. These rulers charged Socrates with impiety and corrupting youth. As a result, Socrates was executed. After the execution of Socrates, his disciples left Athens, and that's how Plato also travelled extensively. It has been said that Plato travelled Greece, Italy, Egypt, and many more countries during these time. After 11 years of his master's death, he came back to Athens and established his own academy. Platonic school of thought was one of its kind in Europe, the first academy of Europe. Plato has written 36 dialogues. The most important one is the Republic, where he has written the Socrates dialogues. In 375 BC, he laid the foundation of Western political philosophy. The methods adopted by Plato were Dielectric, which means in the form of dialogue, Comparative, where he has compared Athens with Sparta and different countries, Utopia, which is imaginary. And in his thinkings, we will see all these methodologies which he has adopted. Let us start with the Plato's theory of justice. It starts with the scene in the house of Cephalus, where many sophists and the philosophers were sitting together to discuss on the issue justice. The theory of justice is written in the book Republic by Plato in a dialogue form. Before he gives his own theory, he talks about or he refutes the ideas which were prevailing at that time. So, rejection of the prevalent theory of justice. The first theory of justice was the traditional theory of Cephalus. Cephalus claims that justice is consisting in speaking the truth and paying the debts. When we talk about speaking the truth, Socrates refutes the idea and he says that it is not applicable universally. What is true in one sense may not be true in another sense. So we cannot say speaking the truth is justice. Then paying one's debt. Another criticism what Socrates raised is to restore weapons to a man who has gone mad is not justice, even though theoretically the weapons are due to him. That means a person who has gone insane and the weapons belongs to him, if we give back his weapon, he may use it unconditionally. So that is not a justice. After Cephalus, his son Polemarchus came to power, so he slightly modified the definition of justice and he said justice seems to consist in giving what is proper to him. That means, he says, practically justice is an art consisting in doing good to friends and harm to enemies. So, doing good to friends and harm to enemies, he has modified the definition given by his father. The arguments which were being proposed by Socrates were, appearance may be deceptive. The one who seems to be your friend may not be in reality, and to whom we are considering as our enemy may not be our enemy. And secondly, doing harm to anybody, whether enemy, is not justice. We cannot harm even to our enemy, otherwise he will come up with more strength later on. Relation between two individuals and ignores the general social aspect. Polemarchus only talks about two people, friends and enemy. What about those who live in a society? They are neither our friends nor enemies. So what is our behavior towards them is not being mentioned. And lastly, analogy of justice with arts is wrong. Art can do good, it can also do wrong, like a doctor who can cure disease can also create a disease. So we cannot say that it is an art. So this was the arguments which were being posed by Socrates. Moving on to the next theory, the radical theory of Thrasymachus. Thrasymachus defined justice as the interest of stronger. That means might is right. According to this, different forms of government, democratic, oligarchic, aristocratic, they come to power. And every government make rules according to their own choices because they are in power. So, interest of the stronger. Now, Socrates' response to this theory is that the pursuit of self-interest is justice for ruler. It is justice for rule too. If the ruler has the right to make laws for his own self-interest, similarly, the ruled also have the rights whether to obey the laws or not to obey the law according to their self-interest. Secondly, government is an art, and true art looks for perfection of material. The means should justify the ends. If right policies are being framed, it will give you right results. So definitely the means should be justified. It is justice which brings wisdom and happiness, not injustice which knows its limitations. If you pass an exam with cheating, you can be a topper of the class, but practically you will not get wisdom or happiness. That you can achieve only if you study hard and then achieve well. So that's the thing where Socrates refused the idea. The last theory is the contractual theory of Glaucon, which is also known as pragmatic theory. So, pragmatism. Glaucon defined justice as the interest of the weaker, the child of the fair. We can take example of social contract theory, which says that the state is the result of a contract signed between the stronger and the weaker persons. But Plato refutes the idea. He says state is not a result of contract. There are no traces which shows that state is signed due to a contract. Secondly, state is for the benefit of stronger and the weaker. Both are being benefited. Everyone needs state and society because man is a social animal. We love to live in society. We do not want to live in isolation. So since the man has the instinct to live together, that is how the state is being created. Let us have a look at Plato's argument at a glance. Justice is virtue. Plato says that justice is the result of a virtue. Virtue gives us knowledge. Now, what virtues? Wisdom, temperance, justice, and spirit. These are the virtues which are present in a human beings. Then he says justice is to do with duties. Every individual has to perform his duty which is assigned to him by nature. Thirdly, justice does not harm anyone. So doing injustice even to enemies is not justified. Justice is for the benefit of all. It does not concentrate whether on weak or a strong personality. It believes in equality. Now, what is the notion of justice according to Plato? Plato believed that every human soul has three virtues, that is appetite, spirit and wisdom. But one of the elements is in predominance. He tried to trace the theory of an ideal state. Plato wanted to construct an ideal state, and he says in an ideal state all categories of people reside. Now some of them have appetite, some have spirit and some have wisdom. Since we require to fulfill our basic needs, there is a division of work. Now division of labor further results into specialization of work. So some can produce food, some will give you clothes and some will provide you with shelter. When the basic needs are fulfilled, people go further for luxurious need. And even when the luxurious needs are fulfilled, we require security. So we need every category of people in a state. So those who have appetite, they form the production class, they are the producers. Those who have spirit predominance in their human soul, they give you the military class. And those who have wisdom, reason, those who can think aptly forms the ruling class. So every individual has these three elements, but one of the element is in predominance. Those who have appetite in them, they should become farmers or they should choose a work like auxiliary. And those who have spirit, they are ready to give their life for their motherland, will be the soldiers. Those who can think, have wisdom and reason, they form the rulers. This was Platonic justification, and this is what is Plato's theory of justice. Plato says that the producing class provides the economic base. They help in increasing the economy of the country. While the moral base is being given by the military class, we are living safely, securely because there are military which is providing us with the security. Direction and management, the wisdom gives direction and management which is looked after by the ruling class, that means the rulers. Plato talks about the three cardinal virtues which are wisdom, courage, temperance, and definitely justice is among one of them, but justice have all these three cardinal virtues in it which could be reflected in the three classes. Justice is for Plato a part of human virtue and the bond which joins together the state. All these three classes together forms one state. A just man acts rationally in all as its own reward and is rewarded even in life and after death. So if you display justice, you are being rewarded not only when you are alive, but also after death. Prevalence of virtues. It involves the freedom of every part to discharge its function freely. Practically, Plato believes that all the three classes should not interfere in each other's activity. They should be given freedom to perform their duty by their own. It involves happiness which comes from a consciousness of energy directed towards the right end. If there is a specialization of work, people do a work repeatedly, definitely they are perfect in that work, and that work could be achieved with the desired result, and that result gives you happiness. It involves unity in a sense of scheme within which and for the sake of whose realization each part discharges its several functions. Unity, all three can work together if they do not interfere in each other's activity. In result, it provides harmony in the state. Barker gives the definition of justice as he has observed from Plato. He says justice is the principle of non-interference. It is the principle of functional specialization and the principle of harmony. All these three important aspects of justice makes the definition of justice. So justice practically was in social aspect, not in legal aspect, according to Plato. Plato believes justice comes first in individual and then in society. So if you want to study justice, it's better to study society or state, which is a macro form of individual. The producing class, if do not interfere in the military class, and the military class does not interfere in the ruling class, they all can work independently. Here the duty of the ruling class is to look after that all the three classes are working independently without interference. That is justice. Plato's concept of justice is subjected to criticism by many. So let us talk about that one by one. Firstly, lack legal environment. Plato's concept of justice was social and political. There was no legal aspect altogether. No punishment was assigned to anyone who do not follow the laws or who refuse to do the duties. Secondly, impractical in modern states. According to Plato, the ideal state should have a population of 5,040. And look at the modern state has population in millions. Is it easy to define people or divide them on the grounds of producing class, military class and the ruling class on the basis of the elements predominant in their human mind or human soul? Practically not possible. Thirdly, opposed to development of personality. An individual's personality grow and develop if they perform varieties of function, not by performing one function again and again. That results into monotonous work, and repeatedly doing one work results into boredom. So Plato fails to understand that. Fourthly, watertight compartments impossible. Plato says that the producing class will not interfere in the military class will not interfere in ruling class. And it's the duty of the ruling class to look after that there is no interference. And they follow the principle of specialization. Fixing individual to do a particular role sometimes is very difficult. An individual can perform more than one function. So again, this was being rejected. Disbelieve in the capacity of masses. If given chance, people can perform better in many fields. They have potential. Whereas Plato believed that they can do a particular kind of work only, not the other kind of work. Whereas there are some people who are experts in all kind of activities. So that point was also being rejected. It advocates, or Plato has advocated, totalitarianism, which is totally against democracy. No individualism. Individuals do not have rights to choose their own profession. That's the ruling class who's going to decide who is going to do what. So that is going to result into totalitarianism or dictatorship. Definition of justice is strange. If we look at the justice in the modern era, is entirely different. Whereas for Plato, justice is doing your own job and not interfering in any other's job. So harmony and specialization is the definition of Plato's justice, which was further being criticized. So this is all about his theory of justice. Thank you so much.